11th, 2022 Blue Springs Planning Commission meeting to order. If everybody could please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and welcome everybody this evening and those watching at home. If I could please have a roll call.
Commissioner Cradoff.
Present.
Commissioner Banks.
Present.
Commissioner Peel.
Present.
Commissioner Rohr.
Present.
Commissioner Billups.
Present.
Commissioner Stokenberry. Commissioner Graham.
Present.
Commissioner Honeycutt.
Present.
Commissioner Chairperson Sanderson.
Present. All right, tonight's agenda consists of item 1A, the meeting minutes from the March 28th Planning Commission meeting. Item 2 and 3, general development plan and preliminary plat for All About the Outdoors. Item 4 is site plan design review with alternative design standards for swim things. Item 5 and 6 is the final plat for Edgewater second and third plats. Item 7 is other business, and item 8 is adjournment. At this time, I'd entertain a motion on the consent agenda for the approval of the March 28th, 2022 meeting minutes.
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Honeycutt. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Cradoff. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so that motion carries. Now I'll open the public hearing for agenda item 2, GDP 03228191 for All About the Outdoors. We'll also hear the preliminary plat, PP 03228159 with the staff presentation, and I would ask for exhibits from our City Attorney Jackie Summer.
I offer the following exhibits into the record. Exhibit 1, staff report with attachments. 2, applicant plans with attachments. 3, affidavit of publication in the Examiner on March 26, 2022. 4, 185-foot notification map. 5, names and addresses of property owners within 185 feet of the site. 6, copy of the letter sent to said property owners. 7, Title IV Land Use Section Blue Springs Code of Ordinances by reference. And 8, 2014 Comprehensive Plan by reference.
All right, thank you. At this time, I'll hear staff's presentation. Ms. Kelly.
All right, good evening and thank you. The first item before you this evening is a request for the approval of a general development plan and for a preliminary plat for both indoor and outdoor residential storage warehouses for RVs, boats, and other larger recreational items. The subject property is addressed as 2901 Northwest 7 Highway and is located on the southeast corner of Northwest 7 Highway and Argo Road. The subject property was recently annexed into the City of Blue Springs. It is zoned HI, heavy industrial, and includes approximately 16.7 acres of land. The proposed development consists of 12 metal general industrial buildings with 50 feet by 15 feet internal storage bays and 104 50 feet by 15 feet outside storage spaces and or parking stalls. The buildings meet all code requirements in relation to setbacks, building coverage, distance between building, and height. The site will have one point of access on Northwest 7 Highway at the southern end of the proposed development. A 5-foot sidewalk is required to be developed along Northwest 7 Highway and along Argo Road. Staff feels that warehouse residential storage is an appropriate land use, and as it is adjacent to the Fight Corporation, a landfill, and other industrial type land uses. Impact to traffic should be minimal. The applicant projects that once full capacity is reached, the daily traffic to and from the site will be no more than 5 vehicles. There will be no staff on site. No water or sewer service will be provided. The property will be enclosed with fencing and will be accessed via a security gate using a keypad or a secure mobile app. If approved, the property will need to undergo the site plan design review and final platting processes. The applicant has provided a conceptual landscaping plan for conceptual purposes only. Additional details and plant units may be needed to meet landscaping requirements. Landscaping requirements will be reviewed in greater detail with the site plan design review process and final landscape plan. The site is proposed to be developed in 3 phases, beginning with the southernmost portion and concluding with the northernmost. Staff is recommending approval of the project with 4 conditions, including the requirement that all parking and storage areas must be surfaced with concrete, asphalt, or a similar dust-free paving that is approved by the Director of Public Works. No portion of the development should be surfaced with gravel. According to the code, substantial amounts of masonry materials such as brick, stucco, and stone are strongly encouraged. Staff is recommending that, at the minimum, the sides of the buildings adjacent to the Northwest 7 Highway and Argo Road be wrapped in wainscoting of brick masonry or a material that is similar in appearance. Staff reviewed the applications and found that all review criteria has been met and allows improvements to be made to an undeveloped site. Staff recommends approval of the general development plan with 4 conditions and approval of the preliminary plat with 6 conditions. And I will stand for any questions.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions for staff by the commissioners? See none, thank you. Would the applicant like to come forward and make a presentation or add anything else?
I think she did a great job.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak in favor of this project? Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak in opposition to this project? Okay, you need to come forward and have to be sworn in and then state your name and address, please, for the record.
Raise your hand, please. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this case, you give the truth, so help you God?
Yes,
Need your name and address.
thank you. John Sheehy, 25101 East Strode Road, Blue Springs, Missouri, 64015. I can get behind this project. I feel good about it. I just have probably 3 major concerns. Going in and out of the Strode Road 7 Highway intersection multiple times a day, that corner on 7 Highway is a very dangerous corner. They always travel too fast. MoDOT has tried different surfaces. People always slide off the road. People that turn lane, that's always a problem. And for a long time, I owned both residents just to the west of there, and all the wrecked vehicles, if they could walk, they would walk to those houses. And it's a problem. So I would like to see consideration for a turn lane into that area from the south and from the north. We don't need any more confusion there. And that's really my only concern about traffic. And I assume MoDOT will have to make some recommendations or approval. If an entrance was possible off of Argo, that would eliminate the 7 Highway concerns. My second just comment is on the landscape and the building design, which I think that's been addressed. So that's that's minimal, and I think as long as we take those things into consideration, realizing that, this is our gateway at the north end of Blue Springs, coming in and going out, and we just need our best foot forward. We don't need another metal building like O'Reilly Automotive right on 7 Highway. And I just would like to have the landscape and the building design to reflect the community we want to be up there. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Are there any questions for this witness by the commissioners? That's enough. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Is there anybody else in the audience who'd like to speak in opposition to this project? Okay. Any other further discussion by the commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Craddock.
I'd like to ask staff, has there been a traffic study done and looked at the issues that Mr. Sheehy has addressed?
I would like to defer to Public Works.
Based on the projected vehicles and trip generations, the traffic study was not required for this. If I understood the comments correctly, the concern was on the western side of the road where this development is on the eastern side. There were comments, there were coordinations made with MoDOT, who controls this portion of 7 Highway. And I believe those comments were incorporated into the plan, but did not involve any intersection improvements.
And forgive me, I should offer the applicant, if you'd like to add anything or weigh in on any of those items, then you'd be more than welcome to.
Do I
Yeah, so you would just step forward and be sworn in and state your name and address, please.
raise your hand, please? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this case is the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Your name and address.
Donnie Sword, 16114 West 165th Street, Olathe, Kansas. I did reach out to MoDOT. MoDOT, we discussed it. They took a look at the traffic, the amount of traffic based on the number of units and everything. And they did determine that a traffic study will not be needed, and they did determine that a turn lane will not be needed. So, in addition, once the property is fully developed, all the trees along the road will be, there will be a 40-foot setback, so they'll be able to see much further around the corner. So, and then the issue with the Argo Road, that would open up a whole new problems because there's hills right there on the other side of Argo Road. So that would probably cause more traffic congestion because the hills, there's not a huge line of sight. So the absolute best entrance for this facility is basically on the edge where I have it. That gives by far the most line of sight. So that's pretty much all I have.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant by the commissioners?
Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Peel.
Mr. Swartz, I had a question on, once you enter off 7 Highway, what is the turn arc to be able to get into one of those buildings to park your vehicle in there?
When you say turn arc, off of the road or into?
Into the buildings, in between the buildings?
So there's going to be 50 foot in between each building, so it's going to give people more than enough room to get backed in. So normally from other facilities I've seen, the space in between the buildings is between 25 and 40 feet. I want to make sure that they have ample room to get into those buildings.
Okay, all right. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Chair.
Yep. Any other questions for the applicant by the commissioners? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other further discussion by the commissioners? I'm going to close the public hearing, and I would entertain a motion on the general development plan.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Banks.
I would like to make a motion to approve the General Development Plan GDP-03-22-8191 with the 4 staff conditions.
All right, I have a motion from Commissioner Banks. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Commissioner Kratoff, and this will be a roll call vote.
Commissioner Banks,
Aye.
Commissioner Peel,
Aye.
Commissioner Rohr,
Aye.
Commissioner Billups,
Aye.
Commissioner Graham,
Aye.
Commissioner Honeycutt,
Aye.
Commissioner Cradoff,
Aye.
Chairperson Sanderson.
Aye. All right, so that motion carried with the 4 conditions. This item will be recommended and heard by the City Council at their Monday, April 18th meeting at 6 p.m. And I would now ask for a motion on the preliminary plat.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Banks.
I would like to comment that I'm glad to see this up there where the residents are, rather than something else. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the preliminary plat for All About the Outdoors, PP-03-22-8192, with the 6 staff conditions.
All right, I have a motion from Commissioner Banks. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Honeycutt. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so that motion also carried with the 6 conditions. I'll now open the public hearing for agenda item 4, SPDR 02228159 for Swim Things, and ask for exhibits from the City Attorney, Jackie Summer.
I offer the following exhibits into the record. Exhibit 1, staff report with attachments. 2, applicant plans with attachments. 3, affidavit of publication in the Examiner on March 26, 2022. 4, 185-foot notification map. 5, names and addresses of property owners within 185 feet of the site. 6, copy of the letter sent to said property owners. 7, Title IV Land Use Section, Blue Springs Code of Ordinances by reference. And 8, 2014 Comprehensive Plan by reference.
All right, thank you. And at this time, I'd ask for the staff's presentation. Mr. Magee?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commissioners. Before you this evening is a request for a site plan design review with alternative development standards for swim things to allow a building addition of 5,000 square feet metal warehouse building located at 3010 Southwest 40 Highway. Staff reviewed the request according to the site plan design review criteria for those standards to allow the construction of a 5,000 square feet metal warehouse building to the rear of the retail building. The proposed building plan increased the floor area of the existing legal non-conforming building on a lot by more than 25%. The existing buildings on the site are calculated to a total 19,224 feet floor area increase. The proposed building addition meets all setback requirements and building design. However, the applicant is requesting the proposed alternative development standards are as follows. 1, waive the requirement for the deficiencies in landscape, buffering, screening to be brought into compliance, and waive the requirement for any deficiencies in paving to be brought into compliance, allowing for any existing gravel or unimproved surfaces that are being utilized for parking, unloading, loading, access drives, and exterior storage to remain as is. Staff believes these exceptions are acceptable as the new building is an accessory building located behind the primary building, and the deficiencies are generally not visible from the street or adjacent properties. The construction of the new building will reduce the amount of outdoor storage on the property and storage in the temporary containers. Based on the review criteria, both the alternative development standard and the site plan design review, staff recommends approval of the site plan design review with alternative development standards with 2 conditions, and 1 condition is for the installation of a 5 feet sidewalk along 40 highway frontage. I'll be happy to answer any questions you all may have.
All right, thank you. Any questions for staff by the commissioners?
Mr. Chair, I do have a question. I have a concern. I know they're building this building behind the current swim things, right?
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
And you're asking for them to put a sidewalk in front of the current old building,
I will have Public Works to answer that question.
okay?
That is accurate, yeah. That's part of the redevelopment of this site, or, yeah, would be the addition of a sidewalk.
Okay, I understand that it's a condition because they're putting this building behind it. But could I ask why we can't waive this since there are no other sidewalks on 40 Highway from Woods Chapel all the way to 19th Street? And for 37 years, there haven't been any, then since I've lived here.
Right, I understand that, but part of the goal is just achieving that pedestrian additional option for transportation for the pedestrians and bikes through sidewalks. And while we don't have them right now, the eventual goal is for sidewalk connectivity, along this corridor.
Okay, but there's a big ditch in front of this building, and next door there's a big ditch. Are we planning on doing something to where, and then where are we gonna go from there? I mean, I guess have concerns for even the safety of anybody wanting to walk on it.
Yeah, I think in this case the sidewalk wouldn't be as close to the road as the ditch is. It would be closer to the right-of-way line, which is further south. So basically probably 1 foot off of the right-of-way line would be the edge of the sidewalk, still within MoDOT right-of-way.
And do you anticipate how many years from now, another 40 years before we'll see any other sidewalks?
Hard to say. It's a condition really of the redevelopment of that area. So, any future redevelopments or developments along that would be held to the same standard.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff by the commissioners? All right. See none, thank you. Would the applicant like to come forward and make a presentation or add anything else?
Yes.
Okay. Yep, you'll need to be sworn in and then state your name and address, please, for the record.
You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this case will be the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Need your name and address?
Charles Baldwin, 1303 Southwest Windport Drive in Blue Springs. I would like to comment on the sidewalk. 2 years ago, we got approval to expand our retail store, and that part was waived because the sidewalk is really not feasible. If you put a sidewalk in there, it's very hilly, and it would take probably retaining walls in order to level it out and meet the ADA requirements. But as you go to the east, at the end of our property, it's a very steep hill, and it would be dangerous for someone trying, I don't even know who would be using this sidewalk to begin with, but it would be very dangerous on the east side because it's very hilly, and so someone trying to get off of our sidewalk would be in danger. If you go to the west, there's a big gully. It would cover all the area. There's no way to safely get off that sidewalk on either end. And all we're trying to do is build a warehouse at the back part of our property behind our retail store. It has been very difficult the last year to get supplies in. So we install swimming pools, we need pumps, filters, white goods, other supplies, and we need to bring them in early, or we get a pool in the ground and then we have no equipment. So we're not asking to change anything on the front of our parking, of our building. We're behind the fence. We have landscaping evergreens that we put in when we expanded our building 2 years ago. And those are growing up. We're going to add some more. But we're really not in view, that the new building will not be in view of anybody driving down 40 Highway in any way that's going to hurt anything. So I would simply ask that you give serious consideration to this sidewalk being kind of a ridiculous requirement. It's going to serve no one's purpose. It's only going to cost Swim Things money. And I just don't think it is. I'm happy to do anything that would be of benefit to the general public or our customers or things like that, but this in no way would do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions for the applicant by the commissioners?
I do, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Banks.
Have you had somebody come out that would put a sidewalk in to give you any recommendations as to what would it take?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant by the commissioners? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So anybody in the audience would like to speak in favor of this project? Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak in opposition to this project? Okay, so you'd be sworn in, then state your name and address, please, for the record.
You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this case will be the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Your name and address?
My name's Jeremy Pick. My address is 1205 Southwest Wimport Drive, Blue Springs. First, I want to say I'm not opposed to this project. I understand the need for warehouse space, and it's something that we deal with at my business as well. One of my concerns is we've lived at this address since last June. We moved in last June. And the property in question is straight out our back door, so out the back of our house. When we moved in last June, you couldn't even see 40 Highway. You couldn't see the traffic, couldn't see the lights, couldn't see the buildings on Swim Things property. Recently, they've done some improvements around the pond, and so all the foliage is gone now. And so now looking at our back door, looking at our back window from our backyard, we can see things we couldn't see. We can see the buildings, the traffic on 40 Highway, passing on 40 Highway. And so my concern is visibility. So we don't have visibility from 40 Highway, we have visibility from behind the property. And so my concern is it looked very rural when we moved in, and it has gone way away from that, and now there's other buildings going in. And I wonder what could be done to help mitigate the sightline. That's really about it.
Any questions for this witness by the commissioners?
Mr. Chair, I don't have any questions, but I do feel your pain because that's what's happened to me. And that, I guess, is what you call growth. And I can hear I-70 now and see street signs and noise that I couldn't hear before because of growth. So I just want to know that I do understand.
Thank you.
Any other questions by the commissioners for this witness? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the audience who'd like to speak in opposition to this project? Okay. Any other discussion by the commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Honeycutt.
All right, so I'm with Commissioner Banks on this. I'm just not a fan of this sidewalk to nowhere. So my question for staff is, can we vote on the sidewalk separately with some kind of amendment? Because I agree that this sidewalk is not needed and it's not safe.
I would have to ask Public Works if this was a MoDOT requirement or was this a city code requirement? To be able to answer your question, Commissioner Honeycutt.
I believe this was through the city.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the code requires that since they are doing a building of this size and that the cumulative improvements that they've done over time exceeds 25% of the site area, that they bring as much up to compliance with the code. So that's a code requirement. They are already asking for alternatives to the code requirements as part of this application. So I do believe that the Planning Commission has the ability to vote on that condition as to whether or not you want to enforce that condition. Now, voting on it separately or having a motion to approve the site plan design review with alternative development standards without that specific condition, I believe that could be made. Jackie, I would have to ask for proper procedure on doing that, but I believe that the Planning Commission does have the authority to waive that or to not enforce that condition of approval.
And would it be to make that an additional alternative development standard?
Yes, but also to remove, what is it, condition number? What is it?
It's number two.
Condition
It's
number
condition
2.
Number 2? Condition
Yes.
number 2.
To strike condition number 2.
To strike condition
Okay.
number 2.
So do we need to do a motion to?
No.
It would be a motion to amend.
You could make a motion to approve the applications with that striking of it, couldn't you?
Mhm.
Without that condition?
Right. Yes.
And then see if that
Yeah.
if that motion were to be seconded and passed, I think that could be done. And then if that were to fail, then that would probably give a good indication that not all of the planning commissioners supported that removal of that condition, if you kind of follow that process.
I mean, do my colleagues have more comments on
Yeah,
this?
we can open it up for
Okay.
other discussion. Yep, Commissioner Kraft.
I'd like to go back to the comments that the engineer made about sidewalks and development and turn my question to staff and ask you about your visions with sidewalks and developments. Is there something that credence to what the engineer was talking about, vision of what we want to do with future developments? Are sidewalks included in that vision?
I think it's a joint planning and public works goal to have sidewalks along our our roadways, and when they are required to be installed per the code, adjacent to certain roadways, we try to get them on an incremental basis, because otherwise it would be a future capital improvement project for the city to undertake, to go in and put a sidewalk along that entire stretch. As we've seen on North 7 Highway recently, that took quite a while to get the funding and to be able to do that at a citywide project level. And so the idea behind the development code and behind our public works standards and specifications is that development should pay its own way, and when an improvement is made to a property, that they should make the necessary street frontage improvements as well, and those do include sidewalks. And so when there are development applications that trigger the property to be brought up to code, one of the code requirements is to install sidewalks. It's as a general rule of thumb. So on 40 Highway, we have seen a number of development applications that come through at the pre-application stage to reutilize some of these properties. But frankly, in this part of town, over the years, we have not seen a substantial redevelopment of properties at the level or size compared to the site that would trigger such a public improvement. We typically see new tenants moving into buildings, facelifts of buildings, things of that nature, but we just haven't seen a lot of new construction or new improvement of the area that would trigger this request. So it does, this would be the first along the stretch of 40 Highway that would be required to install that section of the sidewalk. But the goal of doing it at this time is so that eventually, as other properties along 40 Highway redevelop over time, that the sidewalk gets incrementally built. But certainly understand the concern brought up by the planning commissioners and by the applicant, but staff is just enforcing the code as it's written, and then the applicant has brought that forward for you to review and approve tonight. Or
well, I mean, I get it and I respect that the thinking, but at the end of the day, this one, safety comes to mind. Two, it's essentially a sidewalk to nowhere. I mean, there's no, I mean, we don't have anything to connect it. So it goes back to what the applicant said is, who's going to want to walk on it? Where's it going, and what purpose does it have? And I get looking into the future, but as Commissioner Banks said and Cradoff, I mean, it's, what use is it right now? What's the future look? I mean, if we're going to build a sidewalk later, 10 years down the road, or longer, what's the point of this right now? So that's my opinion is condition number 2 needs to be stricken from this approval, but I'm open to what other people think.
Are there any other questions or comments by other commissioners? Commissioner Billups.
I know we have in the past approved a lot of sidewalks to nowhere, and I understand the reason behind it. I am in favor of the reason behind it. My question is, and I think we've done this in the past where we've got a situation like this, instead of requiring the sidewalk to be built and disintegrate before anything ever connects to it, is it possible to require just an escrow or something like that to, once there is something to connect it to?
I believe we have done that before. I'd have to, I'm asking Matt since I wasn't here for some of those, but
I believe we have too.
I believe we have done those before. One of the issues with doing that is that that money ends up sitting in an escrow account for 25 years and doesn't get utilized for the intended purpose. And so
by the time something to connect it to, the sidewalk has disintegrated and there's nothing left to connect it to anyway. So that's
right.
I'd rather have some money that's sitting out there instead of connecting to it,
And I believe that is something we have done on other projects.
Might be a viable midway point for some of us.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner
but
Banks.
how much would you figure? Because if I've been here almost 40 years and there's never been a sidewalk. Are we gonna plan on what it's gonna cost 40 years from now to hook up?
Well,
And-
whenever we've escrowed anything, any kind of funds for anything like this, we just have to go on current values.
But I mean, here's what I look at it. Well, I can't compare 40 Highway to North 7 Highway, because North 7 Highway is walkable. There's residential, and you can get somewhere. On 40 Highway, I don't see you walking on 40 Highway to go down the store. I mean, I've not seen anybody walk on 40 Highway on either side. I drove by this place so many times and up and down 40 Highway to see if anybody looked like they had a sidewalk. And there's no sidewalks until you get down to 19th, where there's something that you can go to. And there's houses down there. Not saying that there's not houses up here, but I don't see any of those residents walking down 40 Highway to go to anything, because it's going to take a while to get there, for one thing. And then you got to walk on the other side, and it's not very safe. So I just worry, if you saw the ditches along there, how you're going to put in a sidewalk, now or later on, maybe. I think it's just, we're reaching out to have a business have an undue burden of expense when there's not going to be anything for years to be attached to it, whether we escrow it or make them put it in. So that's my opinion.
Any other discussion by the commissioners? Okay. Hearing none, I'm gonna close the public hearing. And I would entertain a motion for the site plan design review with alternative development standards.
Well, Mr. Chair, since I've been kind of vocal about this, I would like to make a motion to approve the site plan design review with alternative development standards for Swim Things, SPDR-02-22-8159, striking condition 2.
Okay, so I have a motion from Commissioner Banks. Do I have a second?
Second.
I think I heard Commissioner Graham as a second. This will be a roll call vote.
I have a question for you. So if we don't agree with the commissioner, how do we vote on this? Is it an A or?
I think you vote nay if you don't agree with the stricken condition. The stricken second, as it stands, a yay vote would be a yes, but without the sidewalk condition. So if you vote nay, then you don't agree with striking that condition, or you don't agree with the site plan design review in general.
Mike, can we do it all in one, or can we make it as a second?
We were just talking that, and I think I would need to have Jackie's input. This is a motion to approve the site plan design review with the condition stricken. If this vote were to fail, could then they re-vote on a second motion or a separate motion to approve with the condition? It wouldn't, okay.
We could do it that way, or we could just do a regular motion to approve and then a motion to amend to strike.
Okay, so if, I'm just asking, if this vote were to fail, I'm not saying it is or it isn't, that doesn't mean that the project is denied.
Right.
That is just a singular motion with this stricken condition would fail.
Right.
So that wouldn't deny the project. Okay.
Right.
Then that can be voted on this way.
Okay.
Do we vote on the project separately?
So
No.
you're voting right now, there's a motion and a second to approve this with condition number 2 stricken.
Correct.
And if that fails, then there will be another vote to approve it as it's.
It would be another motion to approve it as it's written.
Everybody clear? Just make sure before we proceed. Okay.
Commissioner Peel,
Nay.
Commissioner Rohr,
Aye.
Commissioner Billups,
Aye.
Commissioner Graham,
Aye.
Commissioner Honeycutt,
Aye.
Commissioner Cradoff,
Nay.
Commissioner Banks,
Aye.
Chairperson Sanderson.
Aye.
Passed.
So that motion carried. That was it on that one. All right. All right, the next items on the agenda is items 5 and 6, PF 03228181, and PF 03228180 for Edgewater at Chapman Farm, second plat and third plat. And I would ask for the staff's presentation, Ms. Kelly.
The next item on the agenda before you this evening is the request for the approval of the second and third final plats for Edgewater at Chapman Farms to develop a single-family subdivision with a total of 95 lots and 8 tracts on approximately 20.76 acres, generally located west of Southwest State Route 7 and south of Southwest Cowherd Road. The subject property is zoned SF Single Family. And the second and third plats, since they are being heard together, I'm just going to show you the plats for each individually. This is the second plat, and then the northern portion of the third plat, and the southern portion of the third plat. Applications for the second and third plats are being heard concurrently. The plans are compatible with the rest of the area, which is comprised of other single-family homes in the first phase of Edgewater at Chapman Farms and the Meadows at Chapman Farms homes. The proposed development will have 6 points of vehicular access, 2 access roads from Southwest Cowherd Road, and 4 access points from the south via Southwest Green Meadow Drive. Pedestrian access will be provided with 5-foot sidewalks along Southwest Cowherd Drive and along both sides of all internal streets. The proposed plans are in compliance with the previously approved preliminary plat and PUD plans. No modifications to this plan are being requested. If approved, construction is anticipated to begin immediately. Both the second and third plats are scheduled to complete construction by the end of the summer 2022. Staff reviewed the applications and found that all review criteria has been met and allows improvements to be made to the undeveloped site. Staff recommends approval of the final plats with 7 conditions. Financial guarantees have been accepted for certain incomplete improvements with conditions on when these improvements be completed. I will stand for any questions.
All right. Any questions for staff by the commissioners? All right. See none. Thank you. Would the applicant like to come forward?
If there's any questions, I can certainly come up.
Are there any questions for the applicant by the commissioners? See none. Thank you. Any other discussion by the commissioners? Okay. Then I would entertain a motion for the final plat or the second plat.
No. Oh, you guys are making me work tonight. Okay.
Commissioner Banks.
I make a motion for approval of the final plat of Edgewater at Chapman Farms, PF-03-22-8181 with the 7 staff conditions.
All right. I have a motion from Commissioner Banks. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Cradoff. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so that motion carried with the 7 staff conditions. That's that item we recommended and heard by the City Council at their Monday, April 18th meeting at 6 p.m. And I would entertain a motion for the final plat, third plat.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Banks.
I make a motion to approve the final plat for Edgewater at Chapman Farms, third plat, PF-03-22-8180 with the 7 staff conditions.
I have a motion from Commissioner Banks. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Honeycutt. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. That item will also be recommended and heard by the City Council at their Monday, April 18th meeting at 6 p.m. On to other business, and starting with the annual report, or the, yeah. So the 2021 annual report will be presented by Ms. Wright.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners, for your hard work and dedication through the past year. The Planning Commission Annual Report for 2021 shows just how much work had to be done. The report is a comprehensive list of all applications submitted and reviewed. There are descriptions of those projects and what the final decision ended up being. We also included other planning, permitting, and development applications not reviewed by Planning Commission but for reference. In 2021, there were 107 total applications submitted and heard by the Planning Commission. The most common plan types included preliminary plats with 22 applications, rezonings with 12 applications, and final plats with 11 applications. Compared to 2020, we received and reviewed 5 more applications in 2021. Total applications reviewed by other boards and commissions are listed in the report. Also included are the administrative applications that were reviewed by staff. We had a total of 9 administrative site plan design reviews, 164 sign permits, and 1,369 building permits. Okay. Building permits did decline slightly from last year. However, the construction valuation for 2021 was about $30 million more than that of 2020. That can be attributed in large part to the Blue Springs Logistics Center, just up over here, off Northeast 27th Street. Although that was the largest commercial construction cost in 2021, there were still many other commercial projects with high costs. The commercial construction is concentrated around the northern portion of the city and can be seen following mostly arterial roads such as I-70, 40 Highway, and 7 Highway. Map 5 shows the residential building permits issued by subdivision. The neighborhoods with the most residential permits for new builds were Edgewater, Ridgewood Place, and Eagles Ridge Estates. Throughout the entire city, there were 272 new dwelling units permitted in 2021. The city saw a lot of development activity over the past year, and as staff, we just want to express our gratitude for our planning commissioners. We appreciate all that you do and are ready for another good year. So thank you, and I'm here for any questions.
All right. Any questions for staff by the commissioners? All right, thank you.
Yay.
Mr. Wright.
All right, and then I'll present the March 2020 Development Activity Report. So over the month of March, we issued 11 dwelling units, all single family. Year to date, we are still down a little bit on single family. However, the Planning Commission did approve 95 additional single family lots, which we assume will be permitted fairly quickly once those plats have been recorded. Year to date, we are still well ahead of where we were this time last year, largely due to the 198 unit Edison at Blue Springs apartment development that was permitted back in January. Also we were up on total building permits, 132 compared to March of last year, 117. So we're running right on par for the most part with where we were last year. Construction costs are quite a bit higher, however, for this month compared to last year. Over $15.6 million in total construction costs were permitted this past month. A lot of those were related to commercial projects, which included the Blue Springs High School pool complex at 22nd and Ashton was permitted, as well as some additions to Hy-Vee for their new Hy-Vee Isles Online building addition that'll be on the west side of the building. And construction costs, even as Adair had mentioned, were significantly higher in 2021 over 2020, and we are already running about $1.5 million ahead of that this year. So construction costs continue to increase. In terms of code violations, there were 97 new cases opened, and pretty much for the most part the same code cases that are most commonly on here in the top 3, including the nuisance inspection from citizen complaints and trash prohibited. And then, of course, in the next couple of months, we expect the return of the high weeds and grass to be on this top 3 again. And then for planning cases, the Rancho's Mexican restaurant was approved by Planning Commission back in January. There was an appeal by a neighboring property owner on that, which went to City Council March 7th, and the council upheld the Planning Commission's approval of that. And then some of the other projects, that Planning Commission approved were also approved by the City Council. There were no administrative approvals during the month. And then for sign, total sign permits were down quite a bit compared to March 2021, but year to date we are still slightly ahead. So that is the March 2022 development report. Are there any questions? Okay. Well, before I turn everything over to Mike and Chad, this is my last meeting with the Planning Commission. I have accepted the position of Director of Community Planning and Building with the City of Belton, which is my hometown. So I very much enjoyed working with all of you the last 7.5 years. It's been great. So I will miss you all.
You and I both.
So,
Yeah, congratulations.
Oh,
That's,
congratulations.
that's awesome. So,
Well, gosh. Now that's
So
sad.
when do you start, man?
I will start there next Monday.
Next Monday?
Yep. So
Wow.
Okay.
last day's Friday, and I'll start on Monday. So
Congratulations.
thank you.
Well deserved.
no poaching businesses.
Yeah, the final thing on our agenda this evening is we want to express our sincere gratitude to Commissioner Banks for almost 14 years of service as a planning commissioner. Started in May of 2008. And some of the highlights, and this certainly isn't a full overview of all the things that Commissioner Banks was involved with, but she did serve as a council or planning commission representative to the Downtown Review Board, served on the Capital Improvement Program Review Committee, the CDBG Advisory Committee, and oversaw the adoption of the 2014 Comprehensive Plan, the 2015 Unified Development Code Amendment, among a variety other, in addition to a variety of approvals and work on behalf of the city. So very sincere gratitude for long tenure and service to the planning and growth and development of the city of Blue Springs. So we do have a plaque for you that we will ask Chad to come down and
Before
present to
you go, can I say something because I won't get a chance?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But we do have a plaque, and we want to get a
well,
picture at the end. But
okay.
the floor is yours.
Well, I've been down there, guys, and stood in front of you, and I want to thank. I think that's where the mayor got me. I want to thank the mayor for appointing me to begin with, and the city council, all the city council that's continuously approved me, and I've enjoyed working with all of you and all those in the past that I've worked with and everything. And the staff, you wouldn't believe how much, well, you all know, but they work so hard. And the officers out there that yak and talk and protect us while we're here. They think we don't know they're here, but we do. And so I want to thank you too. And for the 37 years I've lived in Blue Springs, when my husband and I, he came tonight, and I meant not to cry. We moved here about when Blue Springs was 25,000 or so. And we're almost at 60,000. So all I'm asking you guys to do, thank you, is to keep asking those questions and standing up for the residents and supporting the businesses, because that's what's made Blue Springs a great city. So, and I thank you for serving, and I've been my honor. Oh no, I wasn't gonna do this. I wasn't gonna do that.
You mean to do that?
Oh. Whew. I looked up at you, Steve. Okay, let's get adjourned.
He's got to do his presentation first.
Huh?
He's got to do his presentation first.
I know.
Before we adjourn.
I know. Congratulations, here, you want to take this? I don't know what it is. Here, you just throw that over. I don't have a copy.
So I obviously have the pleasure of recognizing you on your great, leadership and commitment to this volunteer gig, so
Chairman, if I may,
Yeah.
over here. I usually don't talk. It's the.
Yeah, there we go.
yeah.
Like,
I would take this opportunity because we won't as a city council, but I can speak for the mayor and the rest of the city council saying we appreciate all your years of service. You've done a great job. Hopefully you enjoy your retirement, so to speak. But we did want to let you know that we do appreciate all the service you provided to the city on your city as a planning commissioner. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
any other business? I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion from Commissioner Honeycutt, second from
Second.
Commissioner Rohr. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, good night.
Thank you, Lynn.